What's up, everybody? It is 5:30 Eastern, DFS Army MLB Live Lock Show. I'm batting a fly away. Man, it is hot, hot, hot outside pretty much everywhere in the nation. But you know who else is hot? Obviously, DFS Army members. That's the easiest segue ever. We just finished up a 7-day trial last week where I think quite a few people piled in, gave us some shots. How'd you do, Razzle? It's Monday. Razzle's with us. How'd your weekend go? How'd your week go?
I don't really remember. It's been a whirlwind.
Great answer.
I mean, it's just been on the go the last handful of days, and it's been so hot. I took a 4-hour nap yesterday afternoon, and still went to bed at 10 o'clock last night, and slept all perfectly through the night too. So I'm exhausted, and this weather is kicking my ass.
Yeah, I'm hearing it's like 100 degrees over on the East Coast, up around Jersey and whatnot. And it's not that bad here in St. Louis. And I saw 80 degrees in Minneapolis. So, I mean, everywhere's a little bit hotter than they're used to right now. But that's obviously not what we're here for. We're here to talk baseball and DFS. So we're going to kind of dive in a little bit. I've got a different background here. I have family over today. We're doing a kind of a family barbecue. My daughter, her boyfriend, my mom, her husband, whatever, are all over here, because it's the first day we could get together in quite a while. So you're going to hear some chaos in the background. I apologize for that, but they're all out there drinking and having a good time, and I'm stuck here with you good people. So,
I mean, I'm drinking right now. It's the only...
I'm not yet. I will be here in a bit, and you could argue which one's better. Would I rather be in here for a good half hour, or would I rather be out there dealing with my
the only thing that I had cold in the refrigerator, so I'm going to take advantage of that.
Yeah, hell yeah, you got to. You were saying you were struggling with your AC and stuff, getting it on and cooled off and whatnot based on being gone at work all day and yada, yada, yada. So I got a ceiling fan on. I'm good. So how many games are on that slate today? Because I didn't look and I didn't count. And I know Monday's usually all right.
We got an 8-game slate.
Eight game. I'm seeing a lot of hot weather. I'm going to show the weather tab here, like we usually start off with for everybody. And again, thanks everybody for tuning in, piling in, hitting the thumbs up and the like button and the subscribe and all that good stuff, and growing the base, because we're here for you, trying to get you guys playing more competitively and better DFS. A lot of heat out there, lots of green temperatures, no real rain, no real postpone, no in-game risk, nothing. So tonight goes off without a hitch. Do you see any environments that you want to target outside of the usual? I mean, I guess they're not in Tampa Bay, and I don't see them in the athletics stadium that we've been targeting lately. And no Coors. So, my God, is there weather factors that you're looking at today that you like? Anything that stands out to you?
Nothing really. I mean,
nothing that would tip the scales.
Super warm in Cincinnati obviously makes that ballpark even smaller. But it's not like the wind's super strong.
Right.
I would argue that the best hitting environment might be in St. Louis, but that's, I don't know, like, it's not always a great stadium to target anyways for offense.
Right.
And I also think the Cubs are just weak enough against left-handed pitching that it kind of bumps that stadium down for me, or that game down, not the stadium, but yeah, I mean, for how hot it is, like, I'm not super pumped to jam a bunch of these offenses in.
Well, and it's interesting that you say that, because when I shift over here to Carnage for pitchers, this is interesting too. As I was kind of cruising through the stuff, I was looking at the chalk pitchers, and I'm seeing, Wu and Patrick, Schwellenbach, Rodriguez, whatever, those guys are all garnering ownership and whatnot. And we can talk about that obviously here in a second. But in terms of any kind of a strikeout versus offense that strikes out a lot, matchup, I'm not seeing a lot across the board that is really, really exciting me. Like, nothing really jumped off the page. Maybe like a Chad Patrick versus Pittsburgh. But other than that, it's all middling to okay. Like, it's good. Some of them are good. They're just not great. So I will let you tell me what you're going to do with Patrick or Wu or a couple of those higher owned guys in terms of Edom and who you like for pitching upside today? Obviously, for those that haven't seen your video already.
I mean, Chet Patrick's going to be my core pitcher at this point. I think he's basically the same tonight as Wu and Schwellenbach, just because he has the better matchup. I think in general, Schwellenbach and Wu are probably more talented pitchers. I'm going to use Wu and Schwellenbach a little bit, but actually more interested in taking shots GPP-wise. Swinging with Shane Smith against Arizona, which is a dangerous one, but he's been a reverse splits guy. Doesn't really give up home runs. Arizona's without Corbin Carroll. Nick Lodolo against the Yankees, super dangerous. I already talked about that ballpark, and it's hot. But if there's one way to attack the Yankees and maybe with some K upside, it'd be from a left-handed pitch. And Lodolo offers that, but again, super volatile. But so are the other guys that are considering, because I'm considering going pretty cheap. And it's not because they're cheap. It's because I think they have the K upside matchups. So Walker Buehler versus the Angels, who strike out a ridiculous amount at home. I think it's over 10 times per game at home. In that same matchup, the other side of it, Kochanowicz, Boston striking out over 10 times per game on the road. Eduardo Rodriguez, the White Sox striking out. I had this in my notes today. 27% against left-handed pitching as well. But all those guys are super volatile. They all have issues. Like Kochanowicz gets destroyed by left-handed bats. Walker Buehler has been getting destroyed by everybody. Walker Buehler, not the same guy. I wanted to have interest in Ben Brown. St. Louis has struck out a little bit more recently, but he's super volatile and he's the same kind of pitcher, basically. So to me, it's those three guys at the top, probably the smartest plays, but there's a lot of GPP upside in some cheaper guys. But they're all super similar. You know, they're all going to, I don't know, get bombed, 50% of the time in these matchups, probably.
Sounds like a ride the lightning kind of day.
Yeah, I mean,
perfect for GPPs, perfect for tournaments.
I did a K parlay for some pitchers, and I will tell you that the 5 pitchers in my K parlay are both pitchers in the Boston LA game. Eduardo Rodriguez, Chad Patrick, and then Trevor Rogers, who's on the.
Well, let me ask you this: if you did some K parlays against the guys in the same game, would you ever run 2 pitchers on DraftKings in the same game on a slate this size, or do you feel it's more important to try and get both of those wins in your point score, or can you just kind of ping pong it and hope for a low scoring strikeout fest where one guy gets the win and one guy gets the no decision?
I will tell you, no matter the slate size, that I could not care less if pitchers are facing each other.
So you'll do it. In other words, you do it.
Yeah,
if it happens, it happens.
I ran the numbers earlier this year after like a month and a half or whatever. Starting pitchers were getting the win like 37% of the time in games. Just the way that starting pitchers aren't going as deep any longer, and bullpens are blowing games more and more. I'm not going to miss out on the nut 2-pitcher matchup because I'm afraid that they face each other. And with how few wins starting pitchers are actually getting these days, I'd actually like the idea of pairing pitchers against each other, because now I have a slightly better chance of actually getting those 4 points as opposed to 0.
You're saying get one win. You know, you're at the expense of getting both wins. You're going to try and increase your chances to at least get one, because if you have them in 2 different games, there's freaking no way of knowing whether you're even going to get one.
Right, with the
kind of the deal.
The way bullpens work now, yeah.
That's definitely a newer school thought, because old teaching would say it's obviously suboptimal to put both of them in the same lineup from the same game because you can't get both wins. And that's why I wanted to ask you, because I'm kind of the same thought process where, I mean, yeah, in a perfect world or in a vacuum, we might want to chase both wins. But the odds of that coming together on the same night, as well as getting 8 to 10 strikeouts out of both guys, and I mean, it's just like, come on. I don't think the edge. It may be suboptimal technically, but I don't think that I don't think the drop off from suboptimal to having good winning chances is really significant enough to worry about.
I mean, the win on DraftKings is worth the same as 2 strikeouts.
Right.
So I don't really care that much about it on DraftKings, where the win and quality start on FanDuel,
Well,
a combined 10 points where your pitcher finishes with 40. Like, okay, yeah, your win is now 25% of your pitcher's final score.
For sure.
If the win is 25% of your final score on DK, and that means your starting pitcher's only getting 16, I'm like, I talk about it a lot in my videos. Like, if a guy gets me 16, or that's all I see him getting, I rarely have them in my pool.
Yeah.
I need 20 plus.
Yep, you need 25
plus generally. But.
To be fair, though, it doesn't matter if we run pitchers against each other on FanDuel because we can't.
Well, right. I was just referring only about the win importance.
Right. But yeah, that's the first opportunity we've had to really ask that question or bring that tip up. So I like it. Do you have any other pitchers that you're really kind of sneaky on today that you didn't already mention?
I mean,
there's some red ISO against some of those dudes that you mentioned where, I mean, you got me giggling because I'm like, man, that could go either way, which you mentioned, of course, but I didn't know if there's another one or two floating around out there.
Yeah, I don't understand the red on Mitchell Parker unless I honestly don't use our Carnage report only because I'm so ingrained in my own research.
Could it be small sample size? Smaller?
Because San Diego against left-handed pitching is not dangerous at all. So Mitchell Parker made my pool. Like Tatis has an ISO of 0.99 against left-handed pitchers this year.
Well, but obviously the Mitchell Parker numbers they're running back across not just the this isn't Padres specific.
Right.
So, I mean, maybe he got shelled by somebody else, and he may be on a short sample where he doesn't have a ton of innings pitched, and, somebody – and it may have been right-handed bats. Who the hell knows?
I don't think Mitchell Parker's numbers are that bad overall.
Because here it makes him look like a target.
Right.
For bats, which is interesting because, again, this is – I mean, and if he blows up tonight, sure, it'll make Carter's report look great. But, if he nuts his K-prop and ends up in the winning lineups, it will bear to digging a little bit deeper than – see, these are just generic numbers. xWOBA and ISO, those are not splits, they're not to handedness, they're not matchup specific, they're not – I don't even know what the sample size is, if it's this year or if it's 3-year history or what. No, that's not to denigrate the Carnage report. It's just to say that the generic numbers, because the other one I would point out is you mentioned Ben Brown in St. Louis. Look at his Sierra. It's a 3.07. And say what we want about Sierra and XFIP and all that kind of stuff. It is an indicator that that's what he should be pitching maybe more to than what he is. And I don't know if his ERA is higher or lower than that or what that would stand to reason. But when I see a pink ISO on a guy at 188 or whatever, and then look at a blue Sierra, I'm thinking, well, I mean, this guy may be a little overdue for a couple of good starts. You never know.
Yeah, he's just young and volatile. That's a big thing. I'm sure his Sierra is tough to gauge pitching in Wrigley too, because of all the weather-related issues that do go on. But he's just somebody I passed on. I mean, you look at the Carnage report, like Stephen Kolek should jump out a bit, minus the K-score is pretty low.
I was going to say minus the K-score.
I'm not utilizing him at all.
Right. Nor would I.
Like he has a couple starts that are lowering a lot of those numbers to make him look so much better on the surface.
But I also think that, and we'll see what happens when we get to the bats here in a minute, but I also think that Carnage number for Kolek would be an indicator that maybe we don't stack Washington tonight, though, because, he's got some numbers of maybe avoiding taking heavy damage, and we want guys that take heavy damage. But I don't know. We'll see. Why don't we transition to bats? Why don't we do that?
No.
Let's see. I mean, that is if you're done. If you can let pitching go. If you're kind of like,
I mean, I
mentioned what you need to mention.
It's really like playing heavy Patrick, probably heavier Woo than I feel great about, and then sprinkling in Buehler, Rodriguez, Kochanowicz, some Parker.
Which
Lodolo
again,
just to be different.
interesting because of the volatility, like you mentioned. Carnes Report's pointing that out, that these guys could go one way or the other. But I like the balls in trying to get in there and get on those guys for sure. When we look at the leverage stacks a little bit more, when I kick onto those guys, we'll see if we can make sure that we get, let's see, I'll try and blow this up a little bit bigger. That ought to be all right. If I go by implied run total rank, which I like to start with, and then look at where the ownership goes, we'll see who's generating the leverage, and we'll see where you're going with your bats, because that's kind of the fun game that we like playing on Mondays with you, is where are those tiers? How many tier 1 teams and tier 2 teams do you have today?
2 of each.
2 of each. So if I had to narrow it down to 2, and I don't know, you know what, we usually let the comments lead this one if they can. So guys, this is your opportunity to jump in there. How much do you think he's on the Yankees or the Padres? Based on what he said about pitching, could you pick up on any hints where he might be going in bats, where he might be, maybe he's targeting a Razzle, you tend to sometimes impress me as the kind of guy that's not afraid when you find volatile pitchers to use them some, stack against them some. Use them some, stack against them some. Is today one of those days?
It is going to be one of those days, but not from a tier 1, tier 2 standpoint.
Okay.
My one hint would be one team within those tiers is facing a pitcher that's in my pitcher pool.
Well, that's a hint for everybody else. So if your pitcher pool, one team against the pitcher pool, let's jump in here and see where you guys are going with your comments. I'm going to go back through some of those questions in a bit. New York and Arizona, Boston, Seattle, Milwaukee, Seattle. Let's see. You know what? I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna come back to Don and Edward here in a minute, and I'm gonna go with Tattoo and Harlock and say Seattle, because I know you kind of like Seattle earlier a couple of weeks back. Are you still on Seattle? Did they make tier 1 though? That's the question.
Seattle is in tier 1. I wanted them to not be, just because all their recent trend numbers are inflated by 3 games in Wrigley where the wind was blowing straight out. So,
I always love I wanted them to not be, but I just couldn't do it.
The reason they made it is because leverage stack wise, they're just ownership wise, not just leverage stack number, but the actual ownership number was so much lower than I would have thought. Right now we show that the White Sox are higher owned. That just doesn't make sense to me. So that's why Seattle, finished in tier 1. I was looking for the reason to make them tier 2, but I couldn't do it.
Okay, so that's one of your tier 1 teams. Then I'm going to go ahead and take Don's. I'm going to go the twofer and say Arizona and New York. I'm going to say New York's not a tier 1 team, because I think you're going to be like Tattoo's been lately, which is New York's just been a little cold, and it's not probably worth it. So, but I'm going to throw them in with Arizona and see if we don't pick off your other tier 1 team.
Neither of those 2 teams are tier 1.
Did either of them make tier 2?
The Yankees made tier 2. That is
wow. Okay.
That is the one team against a pitcher in my pool,
right?
Because of the ballpark,
and that's kind of where I was thinking. I heard you mention that name, and I kind of went, hot weather, volatile pitcher. There's definitely a possibility here that one made one of the tiers. But so Arizona's neither tier 1 nor tier 2.
Nope. Arizona coming out of Coors.
Right.
Generally a thing I pay attention to. Shane Smith, reverse splits guy, has been fairly impressive. And Arizona's without Corbin Carroll again. I just didn't feel great about. They're tier 3, but I don't feel the best about them.
If Phil's busy has it, I might just end the broadcast now. So I'm going to save him for last, because I think there's a chance, there's a non-zero chance that Phil has has a team in the tier 1 or tier 2. We'll see. I'm going to go back up to the top with Edward and say Boston.
Boston is a tier 2 or tier 3 team. Sorry, tier 3. One of the last teams I put in.
Okay. So
just don't like the Boston lineup without Devers, but
we're getting closer to close. I'm going to say Milwaukee. I'm not a big Milwaukee fan most times, but they've put up, man, that's some. Is Milwaukee point chasing? That's what I should ask first.
I don't think so because they just did it for an entire series.
Okay.
So Milwaukee
37 runs in 3 games or some shit.
Milwaukee is a tier 1 team for me.
They are the tier 1 team.
They are hot team. Ownership projection super low for some reason. I mean, it is a bullpen game, I believe, for Pittsburgh. I haven't seen any update on who's going to follow Ashcraft unless I missed something.
Harlock needs to take his victory lap. He got both your tier 1s.
Did he? Well,
that's pretty freaking sweet, man. Nice job. Nice shooting, Tex.
Which, I mean, because at times recently when I've been on, like, at least one of my tier 1 teams have been the super chalky team, but tonight it's just not that night, at least according to our projections.
Not today. No.
So, I mean, it does feel weird because both those teams that are in tier 1 are the teams that you could quote unquote say it's chasing because they both just put up a ton of runs over a 3-game series.
Yeah.
But like you just ride hot bats for as long as you can. And
for real. That's baseball.
And it's not
absolutely for real.
You know, it's not like those offenses are the Pirates and the White Sox, like where they just had 3 big games and now we're expecting those 2 teams to stay hot.
I think we just got our answer, Phil. I don't think the White Sox made it.
I couldn't do it. I mean, I guess like you could try to jam them in as my last team because I do think Eduardo Rodriguez is volatile. But when it comes down to it, I think the hitters in Boston or for LA have more upside than the White Sox stack. So like Boston and LA are like the last 2 teams that I made in my pool or my stack pool. So
that means the Angels are not tier 2. Is St. Louis?
No, they just missed tier 2. They're my top tier 3 team.
Top tier 3. Who are we missing? Let's see. All right, I'm just gonna go down the list. Is it the Padres?
Padres did not make my stack pool at all.
Okay, so we got New York, Padres, Milwaukee, Arizona, Seattle, Atlanta, or Boston? Was it Boston?
No, Boston was one of the last tier 3 teams.
Okay, and you might have even mentioned that, but not Atlanta or
Atlanta's tier 3 as well.
Okay.
Hopefully you guys are taking notes.
Hopefully you guys are taking notes on these. Well, we've got him on the ownership chart on the leverage stacks as being a little bit higher owned. In conjunction with the projections for everybody else, they're kind of up towards the top. How chalky that bears out to be will be proven after lock. But so what? Boston, Cincinnati, Chicago. Man, we're way down the list. Did we mention Boston?
Yeah, Boston's way at the bottom of tier 3.
Cincinnati?
Cincinnati is the last tier 2 team.
Is the last tier 2 team. But, man, we had to come a ways down the list, at least the list of implied run total, to do that. More people are on them. You know, they're showing some ownership. So it's not bad. Interesting. Very, very interesting stuff. What else can we do for bats on the slate? Is there anything that's not tier 1, tier 2, or kind of the fringe tier 3 teams? Is there anybody else worth mentioning, or are you pretty much on a smaller slate like this, just going to run with those teams for the most part and call it a day?
I mean, I'm pretty much just going to run with those teams. I'd much rather use San Diego as a mini stack with Machado and Merrill, or Machado and Bogart's probably the best mini stack from San Diego with the way that Bogart's is swinging right now. Felt dirty including Minnesota in my tier 3 stacks, but they have hit home runs off of Woo before, so kind of a little throwback there. But I am worried about being too low on the Cubs, but again, a left-handed pitcher, maybe that kind of negates things for them. I'm going to be higher on Washington than most people probably are.
Okay. Well, that gets after Kolek. Liberatore's been okay this year. Like, he's definitely having a more or less breakout year for him. So maybe that suppresses Chicago a little bit, unless he slips up and the weather's hot as hell. Then the ball can fly. But yeah, I don't mind being a little lower on Chicago than most. They're pretty middling in terms of ownership, though, it looks like Chicago. But that's probably as much an expense thing than anything. Well, not tonight if you're going cheap on pitching. You have any favorite home run calls or anything? And then I'll cruise through the questions in the lobby and make sure we get all those, and then we'll probably call it a day.
I haven't really made any home run picks yet.
I will quickly.
Would have been Logan O'Hoppe, but for some reason he's not in the lineup. Paul Goldschmidt, one of my favorite bats. Even though I'm not big on Arizona, Eugenio Suarez just keeps hitting home runs.
Yeah, he does.
Right on right, decent situation.
Goldschmidt, by the way, in 8 at-bats against Lodolo, is 4 for 8 with 2 bombs.
And he's just been destroying left-handed pitching all year.
Pretty good. 1,800 OPS against Lodolo specifically, so probably not bad. Of course, Cal Raleigh, but Raleigh's only 1 for 8 against Bailey Ober. There's not a lot of BVP on the slate tonight, I'll tell you that. And there's no significant at-bats. In fact, there's only one guy, and it's Travis d'Arnaud, who has even 18 plate appearances against this pitcher. The rest of it's all pretty unproven. So I like the Goldschmidt call. Anybody else that you're kind of seeing off the top or like that you're excited about?
A couple random outfielders, Wilyer, Abreu. James Wood's not really random, but I do like a couple of the Washington bats, James Wood, C.J. Abrams, Luis Garcia. Even Nathaniel Lowe, I guess. I just don't like the guy much, but he's got an ISO of 520 over the last week. So power is streaky. So you're going to ride guys when they are hitting home runs.
I'm going to work backwards through these questions. DePrince asks where I was the other day when he needed me. Explain yourself, sir, and I will throw myself at the mercy of the court. I don't know where the question came in or what I was saying. Probably anything. Going off the reservation, Harlock says with d'Arnaud. Tattoo says Steer and Gavin Sheets. Brewers have been hot lately by Don, of course. Don's asking what are 2 pitchers he can get for GPP out of Wu, Patrick, Ober, and Atlanta. I mean, you've already mentioned the volatility of these guys. Some of them, of course.
I mean, Wu and Patrick would be my most combination.
Yeah, core. Patrick's your core. That's definitely one.
Yeah.
And you might lean on Wu, and you probably not too high on Ober by comparison, so you're probably on Wu.
I'm not using Ober at all. I lean Wu over Schwellenbach. But, I mean, the most common hand-built combination that I have is Wu and Patrick.
Yeah, that looks like most of the questions today, too. Pretty quiet team. Pretty quiet out here today, team. We're not doing too much. Hey, DePrince, hit me up in DM or something like that if you I'd like to know where I let you down. If I did. If I didn't, that's cool. I don't mind running. One lineup for FD, need help for multiplier strategy. Oh, well, that's build a hybrid, brother. Stack up the chalk. Find a couple of those teams that tier 1, tier 2 that Razzle was mentioning. Probably use a Patrick or something like that. Or if you want to go a little bit off, you can use some of the other ones that he mentioned. And really, you just 4x3 it. When you're in those multipliers or 100 mans or whatever, they're smaller field GPPs. You're not afraid of the chalk in those necessarily because you don't have to beat a ton of people. You get off in one of those 3 areas and you stay pretty much close to the vest the rest of the way. And you just play it out. Acuna Jr. hits a homer today. That shouldn't shock anybody if that happens. Hey, we're at 120, Razzle. That might be our personal high for people.
That's pretty good.
I'll take it. I'm going to start running since we've been calling you Raz GPT and stuff like that the past couple of weeks, I'm gonna start watching the Monday versus the. Oh, we just chased one off. We're down to 119, but I'm gonna try and put see where we go with this. And get you out of that training and crap at work sooner, so that we can get running on these shows again. Any final parting words of wisdom for everybody? Because I got people yelling at me to throw meat on the barbecue, and I know we got the games getting ready to go off here in a bit, so we need to be building our lineups as well.
I mean, answering the Prince tiers posted on like my tiers are just based on my confidence rating. So I have 4 stars, it's tier 1, 3 stars is tier 2, 2 stars is tier 3. That's just how I break them down. So each team in that tier gets the same percentage in my runs for MME purposes. And Dixon Cider, my photo album on my phone is just chock full thanks to that insert chip.
I thought we were gonna go off the deep end with that one. Well, I'll tell you what, guys. As always, thanks for tuning in to the DFSArmy.com live lock show between me and Razzle and the rest of the crew. Not advised doing that tattoo. Yeah, that might burn a bit. I agree. You might get singed, if that's the word. But it's hot enough out there. We can probably just stand outside long enough and cook everything ourselves. You guys, thanks always for tuning in. Me and Razzle and the DFS Army crew, we really, really enjoy all of it. I hope somebody wins a bunch of money today. Helmets up, all that good stuff. Razzle, you going to send us off and peace us out?
Well, if I'm not going to win everything, let's just hope that Tattoo doesn't either.
And with that, everybody,
that's all I got.
We will see you tomorrow. Thanks, Razzle. Be good, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, see ya.